In a world where forced readings and writings were a staple of high school education, there lived one boy. A boy who actually took away lessons from the assigned readings and writings. No, not that boy. The boy was me. From when I was young, I was never much of a school person. The homework, the stress, the hormones, it wasn't for me. Still really isn't for me. But at least I can say I'll be walking away from it with lessons learned. Being Rudy means having a loving family, a Hispanic background, and being a working class American. My family has always been so important to me. We were really raised to cherish one another. Although we're not as verbal as other families, I know that we have a bond that can never be broken. In Will Grayson by John Green and David Leviathan, family is shown in a funny way. The book was awful and the messages it was trying to convey were cliche, but the family stuck out to me because it reminded me of my family. As the main character grew, he began to understand the motives behind the things his parents did, and that's when I began to understand my parents. So much so that we sat down and had a talk about everything, and because of that, I've never felt much closer to them. I never figured that my life would take away such a benefit from a story I decided to pick up and read for fun. It's strange yet funny that my life took a turn for the better, all because of a vicious book. My dad was born in El Salvador, which is in Central America. My mom was born in Chicago, but both her parents were born in Mexico. Being born in Chicago and being raised most of my life in the suburbs classifies me as whitewashed according to my parents. Because of my Hispanic background, I learned at a young age to be accepting of other customs and cultures. In the movie Crash, racism and stereotypes are very apparent. Seeing the gross attitudes some people had towards other people because of their race was disturbing to me in a way, and really pushed me to continue to be how I always was, and reinforced the idea of always being kind to others even if they are different. I would never want to make someone feel uncomfortable or anything because of something they couldn't really control. I strongly believe that we should embrace our differences as individuals and never discourage people for not being the same as everyone else. When I said I was working class American, I meant like middle class, just for clarification. While I've never worked in hard labor jobs, my father has done so to get me where I am today. I took after him and I was one of the only sophomores who had a job, and I've been working since. Because everything seems so revolved around money, I used to think that I needed to always have it and buy things. Economically speaking, The Great Gatsby by F. Scott Fitzgerald changed my views drastically. Jay Gatsby had all the money anyone could ever want, and yet he wasn't content with his life. While others wished to have his wealth, he only wished to be with the woman he loved. That struck me harder than I thought it would. It took a book, and the movie, to make me realize that money won't ensure happiness. It taught me to appreciate what I have and not take it for granted. Throughout my years at West, I have seen many changes in how I interpret text and interact with others. The Great Gatsby affected me greatly because I never thought about myself as a person that would change his views on life and happiness before reading it. It made me re-examine myself as a person, and now when I read other texts, I find myself focusing more on the internal affairs of the main character more than I did before. In addition, reading Will Grayson impacted me in a way that I didn't think it would. It helped me understand my parents better, and we've never had a better relationship. Lastly, watching Crash reaffirmed my views on acceptance to differences amongst people I've known, because I've known what it's like to be an outcast for being of a different race. I believe my views on family, race, and economics have had the biggest impact how I perceive the world because those are the things that have impacted my life the most, and I'm glad that I can walk away from these experiences with lessons learned. Finn.